What's up in Summit? Today we're going to be talking about remote workers here in the mountains. I know it's a highly contested topic, so I'm really excited to talk about this. Before we jump in, a little bit about the show. This is Up in Summit, where we talk about what's actually happening across all of Summit County, from Breck all the way to Heaney, and Blue River as well. And so, yeah, let's get into it. My name is Shiro. I'm a longtime Colorado transplant. I'm a ski bum, mountain biker, and digital marketer.
And I'm Ariel. I'm a born and raised local business owner. Shout out to Everything Colorado and a community member.
Here's what you can expect on each one of these episodes. So, a conversation about local community, again, a couple business headlines.
So, whether you're a local, visit often, or just passing through, this show is for the people who care about mountain life. And if you have a tip, event, or an idea, send us a message.
All right. Well, this is a super broad question, but what are your thoughts, as someone who works in retail, right? You own the shops, you're in person, and you're born and raised here in Summit County. What are your thoughts about remote work in general?
So, I feel like I might have an opinion that people might be shocked by, but I don't really mind the remote workers so much. Now, I know that they have an impact on the community, but something that I've noticed in the past few years was that it brought a lot more people in our age group, in their 30s to the mountains. And, they have a little bit more expendable income, maybe more flexibility with their jobs. And I kind of liked it, you know? I feel like in our communities, there's a limited amount of jobs, and a lot of them are tourism focused. So allowing remote work kind of broadens our community. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously biased too because I'm a remote worker. I also lived here when I wasn't a remote worker as well. And yeah, I mean, honestly, like, this reminds me of the saying, don't hate the player, hate the game. I think it was from like 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Trying movie. But yeah, it's like, in order to be here, and I know we talked a little bit about, restaurant life and how like there seems to really be only one path for the ski bum, which is like you work at the restaurant and then, you kind of get stuck in this forever loop, infinite loop of the restaurant and service industry. And it's hard to like break out of that, right? Which is also not a healthy environment to be in. And so I think remote work has been able to break open a gap that wasn't there in the past to allow people to really like develop their careers, build their careers in different areas outside of just service industry and tourism and be able to live in the mountains. So I think it's opened up a lot of opportunity for people. And so I'm very supportive of it. Again, I'm also a remote worker, so I'm biased there, but that's kind of how I feel about it initially.
Yeah. Should we maybe go through the pros and the cons of remote working in the mountains?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the pros again outweigh the cons so much more in this case. But yeah, I mean, the pro is like you can go skiing before work, you can go skiing after work.
You can take calls.
You can take calls on the chairlift if you want to be that daring, I guess. But yeah, like there's just more opportunities to get out in the mountains. If you work East Coast hours, you could probably sign off at like 2 or 3 p.m. and catch a couple laps at the end of the day. If you have a lunch break, you can probably take a few laps if you're able to work from a coffee shop on the mountain, etc. So there's a lot more you can do on the weekdays. And it's not even just about the skiing, right? It's like you can go for a hike before you start work in the morning. The sun rises at like 5:30 in June.
It
You
does?
can go on a two, yeah, you wouldn't know because you don't wake up till 9, but you can go, on a trail run, a hike before, work at 8 a.m. and finish like your fun activity for the day before you even set foot. And so it just really opens up opportunity to be outside more, especially if you live in the mountains, because if you're remote working in Denver, you got to factor in the drive, which takes a little bit of time.
Totally. And, I am a business owner here, so I don't work remote. I have my shops located here. However, I think that a positive for our community having remote workers is that they have generally more expendable income. Whereas it's tough because the local workforce, there's a lot of these jobs have a very real cap. Whereas when you have the remote worker salaries, they kind of have different levels, and they're the ones that can maybe afford the more expensive dinners and afford just things in the community that it might be a little bit tighter for, the lifty or the restaurant worker. So it does help uplift the economy here because they just have a bit more income.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think the argument there could be that like, why do restaurants all have to be nice and expensive in the mountains? You know?
I mean, that's a great question. Why are restaurants so expensive up here? Because our real estate is more expensive. And it's that's I think that's like the crux of it. If you're going to go into that, it's like we have to pay our rents or you have to pay your mortgages or whoever's mortgage, and they're a lot more expensive than other places, and that's why. And your workers, they are paid more here. Workers are definitely paid more here than the minimum wage around the country. But so yeah, you're just paying more in general because the price is higher.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I
Um,
wish we had more,
yeah, I mean, I
levels.
think like a lot of the hate for remote workers comes from the fact that they're basically the demand is increasing the supply of housing available, and so like it's making the cost of housing go up, especially for those like slightly attainable like prices where it's like you're renting a condo but now it's like a few $100s more, those kind of situations. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest reason that I could see people being upset about it because housing is so competitive that when you have a local salary, it's hard to compete with someone with, a New York salary or an out of state or even a Denver salary because you really can't compete with them. I would say that a huge majority of our community housing is empty because they're second homes. So it kind of like it's different things that pile onto it. It's not like it's the remote workers' fault. It's the fact that a lot of these places are just literally empty. Not even short-term rentals, but like empty.
Yeah, and I looked up this number before, but yeah, I think that what doesn't hit the conversation is it's like the remote workers and the service workers and the ski lifties, right, are like in battle with themselves, like with each other, but we're never pointing the fingers at all the second homeowners that are also increasing the cost of living here. So yeah, I think it says right here, I just chat GPT'd it, so I don't know how true it is. Summit County's own planning documents specifically cite a ratio of 64% of second homes, 36% are occupied homes in unincorporated Summit County. So I don't know how good those numbers, but let's say even half the homes are second homes in Summit County. Like, why aren't we, pointing the finger at them? Like, right? And so, yeah, it feels like, in a weird way, this feels like politics.
Yeah.
No one's really pointing the fingers as much at the billionaires, whereas people are pointing the fingers amongst themselves. And it kind of
Right.
feels a little bit like that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things like for me personally, one of my ethos and one of the things that I really value is community. And from what I've seen from a lot of these people that are remote workers, they want to be a part of the community. I think maybe that's where they have a disconnect is sometimes they don't know how and they don't know how and they don't know where they can fit into the community. And I mean, the house that I'm sitting in right now was actually rented first by a remote worker. And she applied for a job with me and she just wanted to work 5 hours a week. And we became friends and she was amazing. She was intelligent, she cared. The 5 hours that she put in was totally worth it for me to hire her. And if I needed someone in a pinch, she would say yes if she could. She ended up moving and then I moved into the house that she was renting. But the reason why she applied for a job with me was because she wanted to get to know people in the community. So, if I was a remote worker and I was struggling with connecting with the community, I would apply to work and find a job that you like and people that you align with and see if they'll take you for 5 hours a week.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for a lot of remote workers, this is a con, right? It's obviously when you spend most of your awake hours inside your home, in your office or in your bedroom, which is in your office. It's hard to connect with people, right? And so it's definitely easier. I've worked remotely in cities and other tourist destinations, and I think just how dispersed Summit County of a whole is makes it harder to connect with people. And I think, yeah, you really have to be actively doing things to connect with the local community. It's also specifically hard because this is such a tourist town, right? That 80% of people are, they come and go, right? People aren't really like going out of their way to make friends because they assume you're not going to be here that long.
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes to anything, but I feel like I've seen more of the remote workers wondering how they can stay and maybe being able to somewhat afford it a little bit more. Actually, the other day I met a girl and she was super nice and I had asked her, she asked me what I do and then I threw it back on her and she was like, I'm a remote worker, but I worked in the county for like 4 years when I first moved here. I worked for the ski resort and like she did this whole list. And then, I got a remote job and as if it was like a bad thing. And I think it's great to move here and to understand the community and understand the what the seasonality is and how our community works. But there's no shame in eventually getting a remote job if that's what suits you better, especially if you're trying to stay here or grow your career. We need all of these people. We just need to be able to house everyone, I guess. It's the main thing.
I think housing is the biggest issue, and I think we saw that after COVID hit, everyone flocked to the mountains, right? Across the whole country, across the whole world. And I feel like we're in this stabilization period, but I definitely felt like, people could literally not find anywhere to live. And that's where ski resorts couldn't operate lifts because they didn't have enough workers. And it's because the housing probably got rented out to people who weren't working because of COVID or were escaping or
Yeah.
working remote. There's probably a combination of a lot of these things, but I think it has stabilized. But the matter of fact is that there has to be housing, and I think that's why having all these rules around deed restricted units is so important because it helps support the local workforce, and we need to continue to push that. I think people of different facets of life can all be here together and enjoy the same things that they love.
Yeah. And it's not to say that you can't make a good living working locally, but I think it's just more rare and it requires a lot more research and consideration for these jobs because there's more entry level jobs up here. There's a lot more service industry jobs up here, tourism based. There, I think that there is such a value to working locally if you can and if you can support yourself on it, because I think you're just obviously a lot more connected. I feel very fulfilled every day I come home, even though a lot of times I'm exhausted because I am connecting with so many people, whether it's people that are in the community or visitors. I know that I come home energized because I feel like I'm connecting with people all over the county. And I think there's such a value to that as long as, you can support yourself. Because I know it can be really hard for a lot of people.
Okay, question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think remote work has made Summit County better or worse? And obviously, remote work has existed from before, like,
Yeah.
technology existed, but
Yeah.
the recent, obviously, boom in remote work.
Yeah. I I like it. I think that I've been thinking about a lot of people I've met recently. Like I said, when did you move here? And they all say 2020. And then I think, it's been 6 years since they moved here. And we have a friend that, like, I think we've talked about, he won't reply to people if they haven't lived here for at least 1 to 2 years because he's sick of investing in friendships that are just leaving the next year. And we need people that are investing in our community and care about the community and want to stay here. And I think a lot of these people they want to, or they're trying. So I don't know. I think I'd rather have someone that's a remote worker that is invested in hoping to stay than someone that wants to come just for a year, and they're great too. I think everyone has a value, but for me personally, I didn't really want to make friends with people as well unless they were invested in staying.
That makes sense, yeah. When it comes to the housing topic again, do you think that there's enough deed restricted housing right now to support the needs of workers, in-person workers in the county right now?
No, I mean, there's definitely not, but nothing's perfect. And I think we have to be grateful for everything that the community is trying to do in regards to deed restricted. And I think that I know a lot of people that it's taken them years to get a deed restricted unit. And that's just part of the process and that's part of it. And I know that the deed restricteds have really helped uplift the community. I know down the road, people talk about issues and we're just going to have to figure it out. But I think that on top of that, like people have bought places up here that are extremely expensive. So I'm not sure that many of the landlords are making tons of money. I think they're more so paying their bills with those rents, you know? I know there are definitely landlords up here that make a lot of money, but I think there's a good portion of people that are just trying to get by with their high rent prices, you know? Depends when you bought. 2019, you're chilling.
Well, do we have any business updates this week?
Well, Mother Loaded closed. So a long time favorite has come to an end. Another business that is closing is Wasabi in Breckenridge. They've been around for over 20 years, and so we're going to miss them. On the other hand, in Dillon, Page West got their approval from planning and zoning. So that's a new market rate housing complex that's coming. It's going to be one of the first apartment buildings coming to Summit County. We have some deed restricted apartments in Silverthorne, but yeah, these are, I think, the first market rate apartment buildings in Summit County. So a lot of community members came out. It's sad because it's going where the movie theater is, but if you listen to the speech at the Planning and Zoning Committee for Dillon, the owner of the movie theater got up and spoke, and it was really moving to hear about how much he has been trying to save his business and holding on. The quote that got me was apparently in the movie industry, it was survive till 25. And that was what they were hoping for. And they did. And it just didn't come back. And he, at that point, realized it's time to move on. So I think everyone's really going to miss the movie theater. But I think he's open to talking about if someone else wants to start maybe like a speakeasy in Dillon or somewhere. He has the projectors and he's willing to talk to them about working something out about those. So
Cool.
yeah,
Cool
I'm
new
trying to think
business
of,
opportunity.
yeah, I know. I think it could be really cool. Other business updates. There's definitely some holes. Nordstrom Rack. Nordstrom Rack is coming to Dillon Ridge and they're opening in October.
I know we tend to hate corporations, but Nordstrom Rack is pretty chill, especially if you have to go to a wedding or something and you have to drive all the way down to Denver to find a dress or suit pants or like things like that. It's pretty hard to find that up here, so that'll be really clutch because I know there's people that need to still go to weddings who live in Summit and they're like, damn, I have to go to Denver to do this XYZ. So it'll
Yeah,
be nice. It'll be nice to have, so you don't have to make the trek down all the way. And also hopefully like having that part of the parking lot in Dillon like just be dead for a while. It'll be good to see some traffic there and people walking around, and then hopefully the everything goes smoothly with those apartments in Dillon, and we'll see that whole zone of Dillon will be more lively then.
yeah. And it's just nice to see Bed Bath and Beyond, like something to be done with that building that most small businesses aren't going to be able to take a building like that. The sales tax is going to be huge for Dillon, and my shop is right across the parking lot. So get some people in the shopping mood.
Does that
And
mean that everyone, like all the guys in Southern County, are gonna just start like dressing really nice,
no.
V-necks and turtleneck sweaters, blazers, nice leather pants and shoes, and I think it's gonna really change the game.
Yeah. Do you? Do you?
Uh,
Yeah. And then on top of that, in the Silverthorne outlets, Hidden Tables it's a game shop. They have moved to a new space and it's massive. If you're a longtime local, it's where Rue 21 used to be. And it's actually right next to my Silverthorne shop. And it's a game shop, but they also have tables that you can come in and play games at. They have F1 simulators, crazy. and they added a sushi bar, and they have a sushi chef that is Nihonjin, Japanese.
Yeah, I confirmed it. I talked to him in Japanese. He's actually Japanese.
Yeah.
And the sushi was really good. So I'm excited for the Formula One simulators to open. Well, there you have it. Business updates, remote work. Hate it or love it. It's still a thing up here. So let's all get along. And yeah, catch us on the next episodes.
Should we talk about we should probably relay one more thing. Always one more thing. Well, it ties into the dating. Because remote workers helps the pool of dating because you can pull people in from Denver and other areas that want to move here. So it's a lot easier for your significant other to move here if they can be a remote worker.
All right, well there you have it. Find your companion online and make them move in with you to split rent costs. Boom.
Yes! That's what we're talking about.
There we go.
They can buy the house.
Yep.
Or you can get the deed restricted.
Yeah, I mean, not all remote jobs are high-paid jobs. There's people in customer service and stuff, and it's still remote. It's just a grind. But anyways, there you have it. Pros and cons of remote workers.